Have you ever looked in the mirror and thought, this isn't who I'm supposed to be? Maybe you've outgrown the life you're living. Maybe the habits, the routines, the company you keep, even your own thinking, no longer serve you. What if I told you that you could disappear, not from the world, but from your old self, and reappear as the person you were always meant to be? Not in fantasy, but in fact. That is the power of transformation. And it starts in the quiet, private decision that you will no longer live the same day twice. Jim Rohn once said, "If you don't like how things are, change it. You're not a tree." See, change is not only possible, it's your responsibility. Disappearing doesn't mean vanishing from society. It means disappearing from habits that kept you broke, thoughts that kept you small, and environments that kept you average. You disappear from mediocrity so you can show up in excellence. You withdraw from distractions so you can step into discipline. You detach from your past identity so you can walk toward your future self. Transformation doesn't begin with an audience. It begins in silence. It begins when no one's watching. When you wake up an hour earlier, not because someone told you to, but because something inside you says, "This is not enough." Disappearing is not running away from the world. It's returning to your internal world to rebuild what the outside world never could. It's about pausing the noise, turning down the volume of other people's opinions, and finally listening to your own voice. The real one. The voice that whispers, "You are more than this." The path of personal development, as Jim Rohn taught, is not a straight road. It's a daily climb, a disciplined journey. You don't change your life in a year. You change it in the decision you make every morning. The decision to disappear from the things that no longer align with your vision. The decision to upgrade your philosophy, your thinking, your inner conversations. The decision to grow. Don't wish it was easier, Rohn would say. Wish you were better. And being better starts with separation. You have to separate to elevate. You can't become new by clinging to the old. Some of the most powerful transformations begin when you remove yourself from environments that celebrate your comfort zone. You weren't made to blend in. You were made to rise. But rising requires a break from approval, a break from toxic people, a break from your own self-imposed limits. You don't need to announce your transformation. Real change doesn't need to be broadcasted. The most powerful growth happens in the shadows. When you say no to the party, yes to the book. No to the instant gratification, yes to the long-term reward. When people ask, "Where have you been?" let your results answer. Let your energy change the room. Let your presence reflect the quiet choices you've been making when no one was clapping. Jim Rohn emphasized that success is not something you pursue, it's something you attract by the person you become. So the question is not, how do I get success? The real question is, who must I become to deserve it? That's where the transformation begins. Not with changing the world, not with fixing others, but with adjusting your own thermostat. With deciding that the person you've been is not the final version. You don't need permission to evolve. You don't need applause to begin. What you need is clarity. Clarity on who you want to be. Clarity on what you're no longer available for. Clarity on what discipline looks like in your life. And then you need repetition. Repeating those choices, repeating those thoughts, repeating those small acts of power that eventually rewrite your entire identity. Transformation isn't loud. It's not always glamorous. Sometimes it looks like waking up in a cold room to go for a run when no one else will. Sometimes it looks like reading when your mind wants entertainment. Sometimes it's having difficult conversations with yourself in the mirror. It's unlearning. It's confronting. It's rebuilding. Jim Rohn would often remind us that we don't get paid for the hour, we get paid for the value we bring to the hour. And to bring more value, you must become more valuable. Not to others first, but to yourself. You must value your time, your attention, your vision, your dreams. If you treat your own growth like an afterthought, the world will too. But when you start treating your life like it matters, when you protect your energy like treasure, when you speak to yourself like someone you're responsible for, everything begins to shift. You may have to walk alone for a while. That's part of disappearing. But don't be afraid of solitude. In silence, you hear truth. In stillness, you meet your real self. In discipline, you uncover potential that chaos kept hidden. The cocoon is not glamorous, but the butterfly doesn't emerge by staying a caterpillar. It must dissolve the old to become the new. There is no growth without a gap between who you were and who you're becoming. And that gap is uncomfortable. It's the space where you're no longer satisfied with the old version of you, but the new one hasn't fully arrived yet. That's where most people give up. They run back to comfort, to familiarity, to the same cycles that made them want to change in the first place. But you must hold the line. That space, that quiet, uncertain, awkward in-between, that's sacred ground. That's where transformation is working underground. Jim Rohn always taught that success is nothing more than a few simple disciplines practiced every day, while failure is simply a few errors in judgment repeated daily. The problem is, both feel the same in the moment. One doesn't hurt today, and neither does the other help today. But they compound, they grow roots. You skip a workout, nothing changes. You meditate for 10 minutes, nothing changes, but do it for 90 days and the entire trajectory of your life will shift. Do it for a year and you won't even recognize yourself. To disappear is to respect time again. It's to take the hours everyone else wastes and use them to build something unshakable. It's the decision to become intentional with everything. How you think, how you speak, how you move. And when you get intentional, everything around you begins to reorganize. You attract different people, better opportunities, deeper peace. But it doesn't come instantly. This is the season of the unseen. And you have to be okay with nobody cheering, nobody clapping, nobody understanding. Because your breakthrough is not a performance, it's a process. And let me tell you something. The old life will call you. The habits will whisper, the people will tempt you back, the comfort will try to lure you home. But you're not going back, not because it was all bad, but because you've tasted what's possible. And once you get a glimpse of your potential, average will never satisfy you again. You'll begin to feel allergic to mediocrity. You'll feel tension when you're not growing. That's how you know transformation is working. You can no longer tolerate the old. The greatest form of discipline is saying no. Not to others, but to yourself. To the voice that says, it's okay to skip today. To the lie that says, you're not good enough to change. To the comfort that says, this is who you are. Number, that's who you were. You're under construction now. You're not being buried, you're being planted. There's a difference, and growth always happens underground before it shows above the surface. Jim Rohn would say, for things to change, you have to change. For things to get better, you have to get better. That means taking radical ownership of everything. Your mindset, your habits, your attitude, your inputs. You don't blame the world, you outgrow it. You don't shrink yourself to make others comfortable. You elevate yourself to invite others to rise. The transformation is not just about personal gain. It's about becoming someone who brings value to others by the strength of your own evolution. And let's talk about discipline. Real discipline isn't harsh. It's a form of self-love. When you discipline yourself, you're saying, I care about me. I believe in my future enough to sacrifice short-term pleasure for long-term excellence. You don't disappear to punish yourself. You disappear to prepare yourself. You're not running from people. You're running toward your purpose. The gym, the journal, the quiet time, the goal setting, the books, the early mornings. These are the tools of the person you're becoming. Don't expect the world to understand the version of you that's still being built. Not everyone will get it, and that's okay. You're not here to be understood. You're here to be aligned. And alignment is lonely at first, but once you're aligned with who you're meant to be, you stop seeking validation. You no longer need to be seen because you see yourself. And that inner vision becomes the blueprint. You live by that, not by likes, not by noise, not by trends. When you truly begin to change, your old life won't recognize you. Old friends may fall away, certain conversations will feel hollow, certain places won't feel like home anymore. That's okay. That's the cost of elevation. You're not losing anything, you're just shedding what can't survive your next level. Think of it like a rocket ship. The higher it goes, the more pieces fall off. That's not failure, that's physics. And the same is true in personal growth. You might not see the results right away. You might wonder if the long nights, the deep reflection, the inner work is even doing anything. But keep going. Seeds take time, change brews in silence. Transformation is a test of patience, of endurance, of faith in the invisible process. Jim Rohn used to say, "You cannot change your destination overnight, but you can change your direction overnight." That's the power you have. Right now, you don't need a perfect plan. You just need a shift in direction and the courage to stay the course. You want to change your life? Disappear. Go silent. Train in the dark. Study when others are sleeping. Heal while others are numbing. Evolve while others are scrolling. And one day the world will ask you, "How did you do it?" And you'll smile because you'll know it didn't happen by accident. It happened on purpose. There's a season for everything. A season to be seen and a season to build. A season to share and a season to stay silent. Disappearing is not a loss of identity, it is the recovery of it. It is the decision to pull back, not to give up, but to gather power, to sharpen the mind, to strengthen the spirit, to align your actions with your higher self. See, you cannot change your world until you change your words, your habits, your circle, your focus. And that begins in solitude. Solitude is not loneliness. It is where your transformation takes root. It is where your thoughts can breathe without interference, where your mind stops reacting and starts reflecting, where you no longer play the game of comparison because you're too busy playing the game of becoming. Jim Rohn taught that work harder on yourself than you do on your job. Why? Because when you become more, you attract more. You shift the entire equation of your life, not by manipulating outcomes, but by magnifying your input. Transformation requires honesty, brutal, uncompromising honesty with yourself. No more blaming others, no more someday, no more justifying your patterns. You must look in the mirror and admit, "I created this." That's not weakness, that's power. Because if you created it, you can recreate it. You can rewire your thinking. You can restructure your environment. You can reprogram your beliefs. But it all starts with responsibility. Responsibility is the gate to freedom. Now let's be clear, disappearing doesn't mean isolation from everything. It means strategic disconnection. You don't cut off the world, you filter it. You become intentional about what you allow in, the conversations, the content, the noise. You curate your world like a gardener removes weeds, and in that space, growth is not only possible, it becomes inevitable. When your input changes, your output changes. Garbage in, garbage out, but greatness in, greatness out. There is no magic formula. There is only consistency. And consistency is what builds character. You don't need to be perfect. You don't need to impress anyone. You just need to show up every single day and honor the version of you that no one has met yet. That's the difference between those who grow and those who plateau. It's not talent. It's not luck. It's the invisible contract they signed with themselves to never quit, never coast, never settle. Most people want success in public but won't endure growth in private. But you must reverse that. Get comfortable growing in the dark. You're not missing out on anything by disappearing. You're actually gaining everything. Because while others chase applause, you chase alignment. While they crave attention, you cultivate focus. While they seek escape, you choose expansion. Remember what Jim Rohn said, "The major key to your better future is you." That's not a slogan. That's the law of life. If you want different, you must become different. Not in a year, now in this breath, in this decision. And it doesn't take everything, it takes one thing: commitment. The moment you commit, you begin to shape your destiny. But commitment will cost you. It will cost you your excuses, your distractions, your procrastination. It will require that you confront the parts of you that you've avoided, the laziness, the self-doubt, the fear of being great. Because here's the truth. Most people aren't afraid of failure. They're afraid of responsibility. They're afraid of stepping into the version of themselves that demands excellence every day. But that's the price of transformation. And here's another truth. You don't have to wait for motivation. You don't have to wait until it feels right. Motivation is fleeting. Discipline is forever. Jim Rohn knew that. He taught that success is built on doing what needs to be done, whether you feel like it or not. That's how you disappear, not by drifting into silence, but by consciously entering it, armed with discipline and a blueprint. You don't need to convince anyone. Let your growth speak. Let your actions echo louder than your words. Let your results prove what silence built. Because one day, your transformation will walk into a room before you do. People will feel it in your energy. They will sense it in your presence. And they will wonder what changed. But you will know. You will know about the early mornings, the late nights, the quiet days, the difficult choices, the internal battles, the long walks alone, the books devoured, the thoughts reshaped, the environment curated. You will know that while the world was scrolling, you were studying. While others were complaining, you were creating. While they stayed the same, you were becoming. And in that becoming, you gain something no one can give you: identity. Not the one you inherited, the one you designed. And that identity becomes your foundation. It becomes unshakable because it wasn't handed to you, it was forged in the fire of your own will. This is not about being better than anyone else. It's about being better than who you were. That's the only competition worth showing up for. That's the race worth running. And when you disappear to transform, that's exactly what you sign up for. To meet the version of you that was waiting all along. The one that doesn't chase dreams but lives them. Not by accident, but by design. You can't live two lives at once. You can't grow while holding on to comfort. You can't rise while remaining in routines that keep you grounded. There comes a moment when you have to choose familiarity or the future. And when you choose the future, the past begins to resist. People will question you. Friends may drift away, your own mind may rebel, but you must hold the line, because if you don't, no one will do it for you. Jim Rohn said, "Discipline is the bridge between goals and accomplishment." So what is discipline really? It's not punishment, it's protection. Protection from a life of regret, protection from the slow decay of potential. Discipline is the daily decision to honor the future over the feeling. It's the refusal to trade what you want most for what you want right now. It's waking up when it's hard, staying focused when it's boring, and saying no when it's tempting. See, disappearing isn't glamorous. It's quiet, it's uncelebrated, it's showing up day after day with no recognition, no applause, no finish line in sight. And that's where most people quit. But not you. You've made a decision that your life is not a product of circumstance, it's a result of choices. And when you take control of those choices, everything changes. You don't wait for permission, you don't wait for the world to notice. You move silently, consistently, like water carving stone. Jim Rohn taught that success is something you attract by the person you become. That means if you want to change your life, don't chase things. Chase character, chase integrity, chase strength. Chase the version of you who doesn't make excuses, who doesn't settle, who doesn't quit on themselves when it gets hard. Because when that version of you leads, everything else follows. You will be misunderstood. People will ask, "What happened to you?" They'll think you're avoiding them. They'll take your discipline personally. Let them. Because this isn't about them. It's about you. It's about your evolution. And the truth is, some people are only connected to the version of you that you're leaving behind. They won't follow you into your future, not because they're bad people, but because they're not meant for the next chapter. This season of disappearing is not about hiding. It's about healing. It's about clarity. It's about intention. It's about becoming the kind of person who doesn't need to explain who they are because it's obvious. Their energy says it. Their actions prove it. Their presence communicates it. And that presence, that's what you're building right now. So stay hidden, stay quiet, stay focused. You're not behind, you're not late, you're in process. And when the process is finished, when the inner work has been done, when your foundation is built, the world won't need to be told. It will feel it. Because you won't just walk into rooms, you'll shift them.